Welcome to day 10 of Natural Beauty Summit's Detox Your Beauty Regimen series. I'm Salome Sallehy, founder and president at Sugar Wax, a clean beauty company. And today we're talking hormones. There's been a lot of new findings and research about the role of hormones in everything from skin conditions to mental health. And while the health connections are just now starting to be made, the volatility and complexity of hormones has long been understood. Thanks to practitioners like my guest today, Dr. Z, who are highly dedicated to helping their patients better understand hormonal health, we're starting to see results. In our chat today, Dr. Z talks about how she helps her patients reclaim vitality and their glow through a detox journey to hormonal health. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, I'm here with Dr. Stephanie Zgraggen, otherwise known as Dr. Z. Now her list of holistic health credentials is so long, I'm not even going to try, but it is included in her bio, so you can have a look. And Dr. Z and her partners started Lime and Lotus, and we're going to hear a little bit about that. And by way of just introduction to your story, I kind of wanted to touch on your story of like your struggles with like menstrual issues. Like we're getting right into it.
That's perfectly fine. I'm ready to dive in. Whatever you want to know. I'm an open book.
I appreciate that. But when I read your story, I felt like I was reading mine, except, you know, it didn't push me down a path of like academic pursuits necessarily. And I feel like to this day, I still struggle with a lot of that. But I just have come to accept it as like, this is just a part of like my biology or reality or whatever. So I was intrigued because it's also, you know, as someone who, I'm not going to get into all the details, but like, you know, the cycles, the hormones, the extreme like monthly experiences. I know I have a lot of friends that go through the same thing. And we've all kind of had the exact same experience where you go to the doctor and they're like, yeah, no, you're fine. Everything's normal. Like occasionally some friends would come out with like either like cysts or like something around the ovaries, nothing that can't be helped, but that almost feels like it's a symptom rather than the actual problem. Now, what I love about what you do is you get right into the problem. So can we start with just hearing a little bit about your philosophy of how you approach health?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I've been brought here because of my story and because of how it all happened. You know, I was in chiropractic school already, so I think that's probably why I pursued the academia of learning more about it. But yeah, my hormones were a train wreck. It was just every month I did not look forward to having that monthly cycle. You know, it got so bad to the point that I was in bed with cramps. They're very severe. I would have nausea and migraines and even vomiting every cycle. And it wasn't until I woke up with hot flashes at 25 years old that I decided that I needed to like really hunker down and do something. And my story is so similar to so many other women that they go to the doctor, and I went to the gynecologist. He did the exam, he did the lab work. He said, yeah, you've got some cysts, you know, maybe a fibroid, but your labs look normal. And obviously vomiting every month, having night sweats at my age at that time, none of that was normal. And, you know, his options were we either cut all the parts out, you know, we give you a hysterectomy, or we put you on birth control. And neither of those really sat well with me. They just didn't feel like they were the right answers. And that's when I decided to really look more into, I'm like, how the hell is this happening? You know, so many other women have these challenges. And that's when I found more, reading and research into functional medicine. What does that actually mean? What are we looking for? How do we test differently? What is the philosophy around that? And the philosophy is really that we don't see things as black and white. It's not whether you have a disease and no disease. There's definitely a gray area where women may not have a disease yet, but they just don't feel well. Whether that's for fatigue issues, whether it's your menstrual cycle, you're going through menopause, or even your thyroid gland. I see so many women that have these challenges that doctors aren't able to give them an answer because the blood work isn't bad enough yet, or you're not broken enough yet.
Exactly. It's amazing how
be in their range to be able to help. So once I figured out what test to do, I did my own test. I figured out functionally that I was a total train wreck. My estrogen was off, my progesterone was off, my cortisol levels were off. So I was like, great, now I have an answer, which was very good to feel. Like I'm not going crazy. This isn't just something made up in my mind. I have real hard data that naturally with just food and herbs. So my philosophy in working with my patients is really being able to go to the root cause of why you have something, because we could use herbs and supplements just like drugs, to cover up symptoms where you're taking them forever. And when you take that supplement or herb away, you still have the same challenges. My philosophy is that I would much rather fix the underlying cause of things, and from there, your body can balance itself, because we really are designed to be able to have good hormones, good balance, good energy throughout our whole lives, no matter what age you're at.
Absolutely. I'm just going to pause you for 1 second because you're breaking up a little bit. Are you seeing the breakup, or is it just on my end?
No, it's just on yours. Mine looks good on my side.
Okay, hold on. Let me just double check something. Yeah.
So far, so good?
You're doing great. Sometimes the recording seems slow, but then it ends up being okay. Like after it's, because it might be buffering. Okay, I'll just continue in the next question. So let's talk about how toxins play a role in our hormone health.
Yes, toxins are huge. In today's day and age, I think that's one of the main components, other than stress. That's what's messing with ladies' hormones. When we look at toxins, we have different realms of toxins. We've got toxins that we are making. So every day that you're alive and that you're breathing and you're digesting, your body is making something called endotoxins. So those are ones you make inside of you that you have to get rid of, ammonia, those types of things, carbon dioxide. We have to get rid of those through our body systems. We also have what's called exogenous toxins or exotoxins. Those are the ones that come from the outside in. Things like air pollution, water pollution, maybe chemicals that are on your food, or maybe medications that you're taking. Anything that your body has to deal with on a daily basis from the outside in would be those types of chemicals. And over the last 50 years, just in the United States, we have done a tremendous job of allowing a lot of chemicals into the environment. We have over 80,000 chemicals that are registered for use in the United States. And if you had to guess how many pounds of herbicides we use in this country, what would you guess?
I couldn't even begin to fathom.
Just herbicides alone in the United States, we use 8 million pounds per year on our food supply.
Wow.
So it's a lot. So even if we're eating well, we're still bombarded with chemicals, and not to mention air pollution. We can be doing all the things that we can with water, with our clean water, with eating organically as much as we can, but we can't take away air pollution. And if you don't have a really good water filter, you might be even drinking hormones. There's still hormones and medications in our water supply these days. So just for all those reasons, those are going to compound to make it more challenging for your body to detox, for the liver to work at its optimum. And the way that manifests and messes with your hormones is that for us ladies, all of our lady hormones, our estrogens, our testosterones, we have to produce those or process those through our liver. So if your liver isn't working at its peak, then we just think about things are slowing down. We've got a cog in the wheel, so to speak. I don't know if you ever watched the I Love Lucy episode where she was boxing the candies. So all these candies are coming down a conveyor belt, and her job was to put the candies into the boxes. Well, then the candies start rolling faster and faster, and next thing we know, there's candies everywhere. So think of the candies as toxins. So the more toxins we have coming down the conveyor belt, the faster our liver has to try to keep up with packaging up the toxins for us to excrete those. So unfortunately, we just have way too many candies or toxins that are coming into the body on a day-to-day basis. And that definitely wreaks havoc with our body's ability to produce energy, our body's ability to feel well. I mean, even our hair, skin, and nails are going to be affected by toxins. So a lot of times when I'm working with women and their hormones or their thyroid gland, the first thing I have to do with them is really work on detoxing their system, getting their gut, their digestive system, and their liver to just work more efficiently, because that's then going to the foundation. If you can functionally work through those toxins and functionally process those hormones more effectively, you're going to be able to balance those hormones much more easily.
And that's actually a great segue into my next question. But before we get into that, it seems like so overwhelming that, we get hit environmentally, we get hit through our food, we get hit through everything we put on our skin. Mm-hmm. So just how do you, obviously the system is overwhelmed, but us as people and having that awareness is overwhelming. How do you manage just lifestyle before we get into the gut? Is that something that you find that you have to do with patients as well, is just sort of give them some sort of guidance about how to manage their life and lifestyle? And then if you can lead that into the gut, because the gut, now we have come to understand now beyond a shadow of a doubt that it plays a huge role in our health.
Absolutely. And as far as lifestyle goes, you're right. It's absolutely overwhelming. So when I start to teach patients these items, it's not go home and throw everything away. Don't go home and throw all of your shampoos away and everything else. The idea is that over time, I educate my patients, and the goal is, let's say when you finish that shampoo that might have lots of chemicals in that, let's just replace it with a better option. So over the course of maybe a year, you're completely cleaning out your pantry, you're completely cleaning out your toiletry items, you're completely cleaning out your makeup. So that way it's a little bit easier on both the pocketbook and on, just being able to do it over time. And there's so much misinformation out there too about what works, what doesn't, how do you do this? So I do work with patients, and I generally do like a 28-day cleanse with my patients. So I can do it online with them, or I can do it in office. And throughout the course of that 28 days, I'm educating them on what to eat, what foods do they need to eat in order to clean the system, their supplements that they take, because it's really tough for some of us to get enough of those nutrients at really therapeutic levels. And then throughout that course too, I'm teaching them, what do we need to change lifestyle-wise? What do we need to change, or what do we look for when we're buying products from here on out? So yes, it can be overwhelming, but I think the goal is do a little bit every day. And then over time, that gradually comes into play where after a year, you look back and you're like, wow, I have a whole new different lifestyle. And you're probably feeling much better too.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Are there what are the big culprits that you almost always have to call out with every patient?
Yeah, the biggest culprits, we can look at them in different tiers. I think one of the biggest culprits is what's in our food supply. When we're eating, I call it food, but food that's not food. We have all of our packaged food that's laden processed food. You've got artificial sweeteners, artificial chemicals, food dyes. A lot of these things are banned in other countries because they recognize how detrimental they can be to our systems. When you're in the UK, they've banned a lot of those food dyes because they've seen a correlation between hyperactivity in children and what's in these products. MSG is another one. Trans fats, those are probably the worst things that we could be putting in our body from a food standpoint that is wreaking havoc. From a lifestyle standpoint, if you're drinking water that's not filtered, we have no idea sometimes what's even in our municipal water supplies. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, and for a while I'm that kind of dorky kid that reads the water the water news every time it comes in my water bill, and they test the water and they tell us what's in it. And one year we had Giardia in our water, and if you don't know what Giardia is, that's the the little amoebas that cause travelers diarrhea when you go to places like Mexico. And I was like, wow, this probably shouldn't be testable at all in our water, yet I had a paper that said it was in there, but no one really reads that stuff or makes a big deal of it. So having a clean water supply, eating as cleanly as possible, eating foods that are unprocessed. And then when it comes to toiletry items and lifestyle products, buying more non-toxic products. I think those are kind of the big things that we can start doing for ourselves to lessen the burden, to lessen the load. Because when I detox my patients, I don't want them to then retox very quickly, So
Absolutely.
These are the things that I'm teaching over time with them.
That's great. And that's leads us right into the next category. I know you touched on this a little bit, eating whole foods, but what are some of your favorite foods and supplements that support detox?
Yeah, when it comes to detox, just eating a whole food diet in general is going to be helpful. To help with detox processes, eliminating foods that are going to be detrimental or slow down that process. So eliminating, processed foods, sugar, eliminating alcohol would be beneficial. And then foods that we can eat more of, I'll just give a couple of my favorites. Avocados is one of them. They're high in glutathione, so that really helps with that liver cleansing support. I love beets and carrots. Those are fantastic foods. And another one is citrus. So I love lemons. So that's a fantastic one for your liver. And if I had to pick one major superstar group of veggies, it's going to be your cruciferous vegetables. Those are the vegetables, when you cut them open, there's like a little cross on the inside. And those would be examples of things like cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. So just adding more of those to the diet can be beneficial as well. As far as herbs go, I love things like globe artichoke. Silymarin is another one. You might see it as milk thistle. And schisandra is another really good herb. So those are fantastic herbs that are pretty gentle on the system that you can take that would help with those detox processes.
Now, I noticed on your website that you talk about doing a detox in the spring. And I've heard different philosophies about doing detoxes at times of like weather change, like spring and fall. Can you dive into that just a little bit?
Yeah, I think that doing a cleanse, whatever you do one, is going to be beneficial. If you've never done one and you want to hop in one, great. I love doing them at seasonal changes just because it kind of sets the stage for that season for my patients. So spring is a great time. Everything's renewing, our metabolism's going up. So it just feels refreshing to do that. And then it's kind of nice to do one after the holidays because most people have indulged during Thanksgiving and Christmas and then maybe New Year's. So we usually run a group online program in January too, because everybody just wants to just get back to New Year's resolutions. They feel good, but in all honesty, whenever you feel called to do a detox and you want to do one, I don't think it can go wrong any time of the year.
Okay, so there's no harm in like starting it in the middle of summer or anything like that?
Absolutely not. I have patients that I take through the program all year round. So I work with patients one-on-one to do detoxing. I do group programs and online group programs. Usually we run those quarterly. So anytime is a good time to detox.
I know that every time I've tried to do a cleanse or a detox, it takes a certain level of like mental preparation to be like, and also practical preparation. Like you don't want to do it when your pantry is like full of bags of chips. So
absolutely.
like do you give people like a prep guide or like, here's a few things that you can do? Sorry about that. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Oh God. I thought my phone was on Do Not Disturb. Sorry, I'm gonna have to ask that question again.
Sure.
Okay, Do Not Disturb. Woo! Back to it. So is there a guide or like some preparation ritual that you go through with patients to kind of get them in that mindset, like really ready to take it on?
Absolutely. I always tell my patients, I don't want you to jump into this unless you're ready and willing to commit to doing the program. So I really, honor that and make sure that one, they're ready to go. And two, we do a week of prep. So I go through a process where we slowly start eliminating some of the foods that we shouldn't be consuming. and they're already learning about what they need to be adding to the pantry. They already have the materials of, what recipes, so they can look through and maybe choose, well, what recipes do I want to make next week, and go shopping and meal plan for themselves for that week. So yeah, I've created so many different tools for my patients to be as successful as possible when going through this program, because when you've been through a detox, you kind of know what to expect. But for everyone that hasn't, it can be kind of scary. So that's why I wanted to make sure that I created a program that was extremely gentle for patients, yet effective. Because I understand no one has time to sit in the bathroom all day. No one has time to not go to work or handle their children. So the program that I've designed is a very gentle program that's going to be effective, where you see a lot of changes, but also you're still able to work out and go to work and everything else. And I have a questionnaire that I have my patients take too, a before and after questionnaire. So it's like, how toxic are you kind of questionnaire. Yeah. And they scored at the beginning and then they scored at the end. And my track record for this program is that within 28 days, their score is decreased by 50%, which is huge, because they're basically saying within less than a month's time, half of your symptoms are going to be gone, which is pretty powerful.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I know as someone who's been through it, like I almost feel like the prep for the detox is as important as the detox itself. I've had friends that are about to start a cleanse or a detox program, and they're like binging on all their favorite like toxic foods like the day before, because they're not going to get it for a while, and it ends up making that first like part of the journey really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I felt that it was good to have that whole week process of that, because that eliminates most symptomatology that people might have. It's going to eliminate any, rebound headaches from decreasing sugar or alcohol or caffeine too quickly. So we just do it in a very modified way to where we eliminate a lot of those symptoms that people have just going cold turkey on things.
Okay, so now I have a personal question for you, for me. Because like probably many of your patients, I know I have a higher cortisol level than is probably normal. And I love my coffee. What do you do with people like me? I can't get away from the coffee. Like I can't.
Girl, I know you can. And we slowly stair-step it out of the diet for, over the course of that first week. And I just ask that you give me that 28 days, because I am a coffee connoisseur as well. I have like a big espresso machine at my house. I get it. I love coffee as well. And it's really interesting because that's probably what the biggest caveat that people have. It's not alcohol or, Twinkies. It's coffee. And I can tell you this from taking thousands of patients through detoxing, that the ones that were drinking coffee that gave it up, by the time we get to day 28, they're like, I can't believe how good I feel, and I don't feel like I need the coffee anymore. So I don't think that coffee is necessarily, bad thing for people, but when it's relied upon or you have to have it to get going in the morning, that's when that's showing that there might be some adrenal insufficiencies and everything else. So that's what we want to fix. If you want to enjoy the coffee because you just like a good cup of coffee, great. But if you can't come off of it just because, then we got some work to do.
Oh my God. Okay.
And the nice thing about a cleanse too is it's a finite number, like 28 days. You can just check those off. So it's not saying, hey, I have to go with this for the rest of my life. Right. But I tell patients, give me 28 days and literally 50% of your symptoms are going to be gone. You're going to have so much more energy. You're going to be sleeping better. Things that I never realized detoxing would do to people, I've gotten feedback from. I mean, I had one woman that told me that cleansing changed her life. She's like, I feel like I want to be a better wife and a better mom. And I was like, I'm sitting here crying, and she's like telling me her story, because, those weren't things I understood. I knew people would lose weight, blood pressure would go down, they'd feel good, great. But for a lot of people, it's completely changing their lives. So it's been a fun journey to take people on.
I bet. And that's kind of the next thing I just wanted to touch on and maybe just have a little overview about is, other than, the female hormones, menstrual stuff that we've talked about, what are some of the other drivers that brings people to you? And when they're on the other side of the journey, like that's the gut health. What's next after that? Because I think it's important for people to have also like an overarching view of the journey to health, what it looks like. It's not like a weekend fix. It's not like I'm going to ditch this one thing forever fix, because I don't think a lot of people would commit to like forever giving up sugar. I actually don't know anyone that would, but there's a journey, and you see the journey day in and day out. What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So patients are coming to me for hormone health, menstrual health, menopausal health, thyroid issues, fatigue, digestive support, you name it. I even have some patients that, are going through cancer treatments right now. So I kind of see a little bit of everything, but my main focus in my specialty is on natural hormone balance. And yes, the gut is the beginning of the journey, because if we can lay that good foundation to where we're able to process those hormones better, one, you feel better, but now we can take it to the next step. And really the next step might be different for each person, because what I'm doing in clinical practice is creating custom tailored programs for each patient. So I always tell my patients, I don't know what we're going to do till we do it, because it might change. For some of my patients, they might need 3 months worth of gut work, and another they can do the 28-day detox and we're ready to hit the next tier. But really it's looking at the adrenal glands, which are the little walnut size shaped glands that sit on top of the kidneys that make all of our stress hormones. You already mentioned cortisol. They make our cortisol too. Looking at the balance between those, your ovaries, your thyroid gland, and your liver are really, really important. So depending on what the patient brings to the table would determine where do we play next. If they come to me with an autoimmune disease, I also know we have an immune system component that we're working on. So I'm working with each patient individually. I know that if I've done my job right and I've analyzed them correctly, I hope and expect that we see some kind of change within their health and how they're feeling within the first 2 to 3 weeks. Now, of course, that journey is what you're mentioning. The journey takes longer. For me to fix my hormones when I was, my 20s, it took me an entire year before I was able to completely change my hormones. And not have the cramps like I did and all those other types of issues. But I started feeling better within the first, 2 cycles. So the journey might be a little bit longer, but really if you are working with a practitioner who has done a good job with the diagnostics and really figuring out what the root cause is, you should see a change within that first month, I'd say.
And speaking of diagnostics, I know that you guys do all kinds of testing. And I was thinking about this because hormones fluctuate quite a bit. So do you do testing at the beginning and at the end of the journey, or do you wait until at least like the gut work is done and then do the testing?
It depends on the woman and what we're doing. So if she is, still having a cycle, she still has a period, then we usually do saliva testing, because that way you get to see the whole journey. So with that, you're basically giving little spit samples throughout one entire month. And with that, we can look at, well, what is your estrogen and progesterone doing all throughout the month? We should have this nice dance. And I can see, do we have the nice dance? Or is there an issue around ovulation time? Is there an issue more around when your period's supposed to start? So with that data, we can do some really specific work around that. I do a lot of adrenal testing too. I do that through saliva as well. And that's just a 1-day test where you're giving multiple saliva samples, because we want to see that cortisol pattern. It should be highest in the morning, lowest at night. So we can determine, is your adrenal glands outputting what they need to from a functional fashion? If you were to do blood work like I did, you go on 1 day, and if that 1 day is normal, then you kind of miss all the other pieces of the puzzle. So most people's cortisols are usually in the normal range around 10 o'clock, which is when a lot of us go do our blood work. But if they would have taken my morning cortisol, it was skyrocketed. And when they took my evening, it was like really low when I did mine. So having functional tests done definitely give a lot more data and give us a lot more knowledge on how we can specifically implement different treatment plans for our patients.
That's awesome. And finally, if there's one thing that people could do right away to change their health for the better or start balancing their hormones, what is that one thing?
I think the one thing would be just start eliminating junk from your diet. So you know who you are, and if you're eating junk, just start taking some of that away from the diet. And if you really feel called to really get down and busy and do something more specific, find a practitioner like myself, or someone locally if you want to work with someone in your area that does, metabolic cleanses, that really does these types of cleanses and work to really start your life and your hormones and your liver back together.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Z. That's like the perfect note. That's your takeaway. Go and do that. Don't wait. Just start now. We don't know how long we have, but like at least let's do our best to, enhance the vitality of our lives and our days. So I may just like start cutting down coffee.
Just a little bit. And also the free gift that I've got for all the listeners for the summit. It is all about how can you detox your morning routine. So it's really easy, and all the little recommendations I give are either free to do, or they take a tool that's really inexpensive that you can get online. So just by implementing a few of those recommendations, that will kind of start your body detoxing. You're doing something specific for that on a daily basis. And if you did all of them, it only takes about 10 extra minutes in the shower in the morning, before you get started, or just pick one or two that you feel called to play with.
Oh, that's amazing. And this lives in a link, right?
Yes, I've sent the link to your people, so hopefully that will be in an email, or we'll send it to them. But yeah, you can just download it. It's a free download, a free guide that I have. So it's a detox your morning routine. It's simple, easy things you can do every single morning to help those detox processes in your life on a daily basis.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Z, and thank you for the generous gift. And I'm excited to download it and try it myself.
Thank you, Salome. It was so nice chatting with you today.
Likewise. Have a good day, everyone.